Hey guys, so a popular point of debate pretty much throughout this entire raid on Onigashima has been the fate of the raid, pretty much. Will it fail or will it succeed? And I've during my during this whole raid, I've heard pretty good arguments, pretty valid, points from both sides of the argument. Uh, much to the point that I really didn't have any strong opinions on it. I could easily be swayed to either side, and see either side being perfectly valid or what would eventually end up happening. Uh, but with actual events in the chapters and whatnot, sometimes I'd get swayed a little bit more toward it succeeding, maybe a little bit more toward it failing. And in particular, after these past few chapters, I'm getting deeper and deeper into the it's going to fail side of the spectrum. But with that, I guess I should issue a manga warning or for spoilers for anyone who hasn't caught up with the manga yet, because I will be covering the pretty much most recent events that's happened in the past couple of chapters. Those are chapters, of course, including the Toby Robo fights. Obviously, way back, maybe not way back, but a few handful of chapters ago, we were getting the stuff with Big Mom. She obviously took down Page One in a big, Conqueror's Haki infused punch. But she also hit, Ulti, got her down temporarily, and Nami seemed to have, administered the finishing blow there. And then after that, we got Who's Who versus Jinbei. Jinbei seems to have defeated Who's Who. And then the most recent chapter, we got Frankie versus Satsuki, in which Frankie seems to have defeated Satsuki. And I'm not convinced, I guess, is what it boils down to. The outcomes of the fights seem very intentionally left up to debate and very inconclusive. Just like much in the same way, because of the bad track record with fake out deaths in One Piece, how people will say, "Oh, don't believe a death until we see a body." In a similar way, I'm not believing these fights until we see not the bodies, because they're probably not dead, even if they did win the fight. But like a close up of them laying down with like their eyes wetted out or whatever. Pretty much the signature "this character has been defeated" sign in One Piece. In both Frankie and Sasuke, that fight, and the Jinbei and Husu, in both of those fights, we did not get that at all. They, administered the finishing blow, and as the enemy was getting knocked down, we sort of cut away from that fight, which to me is very telling that maybe those fights aren't over. But obviously, with in Page One and Alti's case, I think we probably did get that. Obviously, Page One, we haven't seen get up since the fight, or since the big, blow in the head from Big Mom. And in Alti's case, she was knocked down and she got up again and got knocked down again. But let's start there with Alti, because Alti is a good example of this. All of the Toby Robo members are Ancient Zoan Devil Fruit users. And something we know about the Ancient Zoans is that, well, pretty much in the Zoan class, there are, tiers. There's the basic Zoans, then there's the carnivorous Zoans, which are a tier above that give, the additional boost to physical stats. And then there's the Ancient Zoans, which are then again above that. And then pretty much same as carnivorous Zoans, give an additional boost to not only your physical power, but in this case, your physicality overall. It's even been, suggested that it improves your regenerative abilities, which I think have been pretty much more or less confirmed in Alti's case, because with Alti, she took a combined attack from Big Mom of all three homies, pierced her straight through the stomach. I'm pretty sure after that attack, we did get that zoomed in the frame of her, or panel rather, of her, with the white eyes knocked out after that attack. And she still got back up and managed to pursue Usopp and Nami for Nami to, finish her off later. Which I think we could very well see similar situation happening with the other member of the Toby Roppo. We're getting all of these Toby Roppo fights, and it does seem almost a little bit too easy how well this is going. Pretty much almost every Toby Roppo member has been taken down. The only one who is yet to be taken down, if we're assuming that they have been taken down, which I personally am not. But if they have been, the only one left standing at the moment is Black Maria. And I'm assuming, given the trend of the last 3 chapters were all mostly dedicated to Jinbei's fight with Who's Who and Frankie's fight with Sasaki, I assume the next chapter is probably going to start Robin and Brooke's fight against Black Maria. So I'll have to see about that. But yeah, I can very much picture a situation in which all of these Toby Roppo members get knocked down, the fights look like they've been won, and then we get a scene where they're all starting to get back up. And that could probably be the beginning of the end of the raid. But yeah, that just seems like the most likely situation to me at the moment, just because of how not only has the seed been planted for the regenerative abilities of Ancient Stones, and we've also seen that in practice again with Alti, but the fact that these fights have been left so ambiguous as to whether or not they've actually been won or not, to me that's enough evidence to suggest that it's probably not going to be as cut and dry as a chapter or 2 dedicated to a 1v1, and then the Toby Roppo are gone and we don't have to worry about them anymore. But we could be wrong, but the way things are going, it does seem a little bit too easy, and I do think that we could likely see them getting back up again. And especially, I covered this in my chapter review, a common theme in Frankie's fights is that they always come down to slugfests. And what I mean by that is, in both of his 2 major fights with Fukuro, the CP9 guy, and Senor Pink and Dressrosa, they basically kind of just stood still and took each other's punches, and we're just like, that punch isn't strong. Here's a real punch, going back and forth, back and forth. It's supposed to be a real man's fight. Neither of them are dodging, and just dishing out as much pain as they can. We did not get that with Sasaki. Sasaki just got knocked down with the laser and the Gan cannon, and we did not get that. And I personally think that Oda's going to continue that theme, which makes me think that at the very least, in the case of Sasaki's fight, that it's not over, and that Frankie will probably continue that. And there's also the theory that Sasaki is Kokuro's child, I guess Chimney's father, but that's a completely different topic, I guess. That doesn't, since that really only is just a theory, I can't really use that as evidence. But I would like to see that, where we get a similar Senor Pink style flashback with Sasaki, if there does happen to be a round 2 with Frankie. But that's just my personal taste. But yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that's happened in the most recent stuff. But there's also some plot threads that have kind of been left hanging, that I feel like won't necessarily get their time to shine unless the raid fails. The first of which is Carabao, or Carabou, something, Swamp Guy. He is on Wano. We know that, obviously. He was present in Udon. But the thing about Carabao is that he is one of the only people in the world that knows the location of an ancient weapon. He overheard the conversation on Fisherman Island between Neptune and Nico Robin, where they discussed the fact that Shirahoshi was actually the ancient weapon Poseidon. So Carabao knows that, and who would be interested in information about the ancient weapons? Oh, it just so happens that Big Mom and Kaido just recently formed an alliance, in which they announced that they were going to be hunting for the ancient weapons. So it seems pretty deliberate that Carabao is here to set up a scenario in which they get this information out of Carabao, and probably, the best time to do that would be in a situation in which the raid fails, because as far as we've seen, Carabao is not on this raid at all. And I refuse. The thing about Carabao is that he got a cover story. That he was like mistaken for like a revolutionary leader or something, and he ended up getting defeated by the part of the Beast Pirates and getting taken in to Udon, where we obviously eventually saw him in the main story. The thing about that cover story is I believe it's actually the longest in the series, and I refuse to believe that Carabao, of all people, would be given like it was like a 40 or 50 chapter cover page dedicated to him, just so he could consume the boss snail or whatever at Udon and cut out their communications, or because that's really all he did of note during the Udon thing. And obviously that was a pivotal point of getting that, but I don't think that Oda would have gone through all this trouble to get him positioned on Wano, just so he could, fit one piece of the puzzle. I think he's definitely here to leak the information about the ancient weapon Poseidon. Whether or not that necessarily would mean the raid fails, I guess that's not 100%. But considering how we have not seen Carabao since Act 2, I think it's a most likely scenario in which the raid fails, and maybe in the downtime in between the raid failing and whatever happens next, whatever like second attempt happens, that eventually we'll get Kaido taken down. The information about the ancient weapon Poseidon is leaked, and that kind of raises the stakes a little bit. That's what I see happening, but I don't know. maybe we have seen all we have to see about Carabao, but I'm not convinced. And then the third point is Nico Robin. Robin has had a very interesting sort of subplot going on pretty much the entire Versus 4 Emperors saga, because way back in Zou, Nekomamushi pointed out, since you are effectively the only person in the world right now who has the ability to read the ancient language, you are probably going to be targeted by these big players of the world. And we got that nice little moment where Robin was like, "Oh, that I have strong friends to protect me now." Yada yada yada. Obviously, development after what happened at Enies Lobby. But now that we're really in the thick of things with Onigashima, we see this plot point coming back up again. Big Mom, in particular, while she was on the roof, started a conversation with Kaido that, you can kill whoever you want, I don't care, but make sure you leave Nico Robin alive. And they obviously even went so far as to, capture Sanji, make him make that announcement over the intercom, and have Nico Robin come into the trap, Black Mirror's little trap there, that was happening. So obviously a lot of focus has happened around Robin during this raid. And I do think, given how far back this was set up, we could very realistically see a situation in which the raid fails and Robin does get captured. And that's another motivation to come back and try another day, I guess, and continue the raid, and they have to come back and save her or whatever. And just that it's been kind of weighing heavily on my mind, especially just the fact that it was set up that far back. That obviously this idea that the emperors would be coming after Robin was, in Oda's mind way back in Zou, and that we're seeing this actually start to come into play during the Onigashima raid. I think there could very realistically be a situation in which she is taken hostage or whatever. But yeah, But with that being said, yeah, just and also like the 5 act structure. Supposedly, the kabuki play, vibe that the whole Wano arc in general is going off of is supposed to be 5 acts. And the third and fourth act, respectively, are supposed to be characterized by tragedy and battles. And we've been getting an awful lot of battles in the third act. If the third act was truly, if these were truly like the final fights, like these Toby Robo fights in particular, if these were truly the final fights that we're supposed to be getting, I feel like they would be happening in the fourth act. And obviously people have kind of grown skeptical, especially with the length of Act 3, that there will even be a 5 act structure at this point. Many have begun to speculate that maybe it'll just be Act 3, and then 4 will be that quick conclusion instead of Act 5, which is supposed to be the quick conclusion. And that's fine, but I mean, we've kind of been expecting a 5 act structure for so long, and just the idea that eventually Act 4 would have to feature, a whole bunch of battles, and to see instead that we're getting these matchups seemingly concluded in Act 3 makes me think that this can't be the end, and that Act 4 has to be where these battles take place. But yeah, yeah. I guess I really don't have anything else to say on that. Just a lot of stuff. The Toby Ropo stuff in particular is what really set me off recently, and gave and plunged me deep into the side of the spectrum that was like, nah, it's definitely gonna fail. Because obviously the stuff with Carabao and the stuff with Robin, I've kind of been there for a while, and while I have been, considering them, it seems like it's not necessarily guaranteed, and obviously it's still not guaranteed. But in combination with the stuff with the Toby Ropo, the fact that we're getting these 1v1s, they seem concluded, even though that we haven't gotten to the act that's supposed to be about battles. It just seems more and more likely that the raid is going to fail. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, with that, I have nothing else to really say on this topic, so see ya.